Have you ever wondered what the difference is between a lifestyle brand, a streetwear brand, and a fashion brand? It's one of those things that you probably already have an intuitive sense of, but you can't quite put your finger on it. In this video here, I want to share with you what the exact differences are. And you'd be surprised actually how much of a difference there is between these different types of clothing brands. And I want to share this with you because I think that it's going to give you a much better understanding of the exact type of brand that you're trying to build over there. So I can't wait to share this with you. I hope you enjoy. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at BrandCrowd. BrandCrowd's a logo maker tool. You type in the name of the logo that you want to have made, hit enter, thousands of logos will come up. You choose the logo that you like, then you can edit and refine that logo as long as you want for free until it's perfect. This is a hundo P design I had made for my own clothing brand using BrandCrowd. If you're interested, head over to brandcrowd.com/apparel success and you can get up to 66% off at checkout. So if you're starting up a clothing brand or you're already running one, I want you to try and answer this question right now. What type of clothing brand are you making? Is it a lifestyle brand? Is it a streetwear brand? Is it a fashion brand? Or is it a t-shirt business? What type of brand are you making? It'll be kind of fun to see what your answer is right now, and then after I give you all of this information. So the first thing that I want to explain to you is exactly what a lifestyle brand is. Lifestyle brands are probably the easiest to explain because it's sort of inherent inside of the name. It's obvious, but a lifestyle brand basically has two main components. It's either built on a particular lifestyle or on a particular set of interests. So the clothing that you make when you make a lifestyle brand is made with the purpose of being worn while people are living the lifestyle that you're representing. So you're creating clothing that people are going to be wearing while they're doing the activities associated with a particular lifestyle. So for example, a lifestyle brand might be about skiing or yoga or surfing or running. But a lifestyle brand can also be built on a particular set of interests like music, art, or the outdoors. So if you look at my clothing brand, K-Bud, I run a Canadian lifestyle brand. And the reason why it's a lifestyle brand is because we represent rural Canada and all of the things associated with the lifestyle in rural Canada and the interests that people have who live in rural Canada. So when I'm creating the clothing for my clothing brand, I'm looking to create pieces that people will actually want to wear who are living in those settings and actually doing things within that lifestyle. So that's the reason why I make hoodies. That's the reason why I make flannel. That's why I make sweatpants, is because in those settings, people are sitting around a campfire and they want to wear sweatpants. So it's like literally a part of the actual authentic lifestyle. And so you could say the same thing about surfing. Maybe you're making clothing that people will wear when they go to the beach, when they go surfing. It's the exact type of style and the exact type of thing that people will wear in that setting. And so that's what's really specific about lifestyle brands, is that you're making clothing for the activity that your brand represents. So I want to share with you some quick examples of lifestyle brands just so that you can wrap your head around this fully. Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, The North Face, Patagonia, Vans, Under Armour, Billabong. All of these companies have a particular lifestyle that they're aimed at. And when they create their clothing, they're creating clothing so that they can be worn inside of those particular settings for people living that exact lifestyle. Now, when it comes to streetwear, it's a little bit harder to put your finger on it exactly, but it basically all came out of this very specific urban culture. So all of streetwear clothing has a very specific urban feel to it that came out of the urban culture in the 1980s and the 1990s. So it really derived from this whole skateboarding, graffiti art, hip hop music culture. Another thing to note about streetwear brands is that they're usually being sold to a much younger demographic. So people in their early 20s and their late teens. And some examples of streetwear brands would be Supreme is obviously the biggest one, Off-White, Palace, Stussy, Kith, Antisocial Social Club, Neighborhood. All of these brands have this really distinct urban feel built into their identity and who they are and what they stand for. And so that's what really separates the streetwear brands from the lifestyle brands, is that the lifestyle brands aren't necessarily associated with this distinct urban feel, whereas the streetwear brands are. Now let's look at fashion brands. Fashion brands are built on being stylish and trendy, and they actually set the trends for the everyday clothing market. And so what you make clothing for, if you're making a fashion brand, is you make clothing for everyday settings and for special occasions. It's also clothing that tends to have a much higher quality. So they use much higher quality materials, and they have much more attention to detail than a lifestyle brand or a streetwear brand normally would. The main thing about fashion brands is that they're built on design and aesthetic, and their main purpose is to be fashionable and on trend. So as trends are coming up, this is like clothing brands like Zara and H&M. These are fashion brands because they're trying to keep up with ongoing trends of how people are dressing generally in the world, what the latest trends are in fashion. And so it's really like a whole other separate category than, say, a lifestyle brand or a streetwear brand, because the fashion trends are all being really heavily influenced by things like the actual runway shows and these big brands that are basically setting trends by using high-end celebrities and things like that. So fashion brands are really mostly about chasing what's on trend and doing things that are, really pushing the limits of what people find socially acceptable. So some examples of fashion brands would be Gucci, Prada, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Versace, Balenciaga. But then there's also more affordable fashion brands that are trying to compete at a different price level, like Forever 21, H&M, Zara. So those are basically the main differences between fashion brands, lifestyle brands, and streetwear brands. And I hope that that gives you a better understanding of what exactly you're doing with your own clothing brand and how you can offer value better to your customers. So I really hope that you enjoyed. I spent a month recording a completely free course for new clothing brands called Free Clothing Brand Course. All you have to do to get access is go to freeclothingcourse.com, and you can go through it at your own pace. I hope you enjoy.